Look at this guy. Bet you guys didn't know I had any horror stuff. Pinhead. This one has a little bit of meaning. I'll never sell that guy. I don't even know who makes them. I don't care, because he's never for sale. Actually, out of curiosity, let's see. Mezco 2016. He does look awesome in the light though. Never for sale. July 18th, 2018. It was very rough time when we lost Chris. One of my best friends. One of the two of my best friends. RetroManiacs, happy Saturday. And as you've probably seen, it's the day one of my 7 glorious days off. I got 5 days of vacation, Monday to Friday. Oh, and I just thought of that. It's not 7 days off, it's 9 days off, because I have this weekend, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then next weekend off. Wow. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff, getting caught up on things that I've been putting off, neglecting. I was going through some stuff today though, and I thought I have some valuable stuff that has sentimental value that I will never get rid of. And I figured I would take you guys down a stroll down memory lane and talk a little bit about my life and about these objects and why I won't get rid of them and who they belong to. And I'm just going to say this, it's kind of a trigger warning because I'm going to talk about my past addiction and my life and some of my friends and some of my friends that are no longer here. So if that type of thing bothers you, you might want to click off. Nothing graphic or gross or anything like that. It's actually a good story. It's not, I don't want you guys to watch it and feel sad for me because I'm in a good spot. I'm sober. Well, I'm on weed terribles and on junk food terrible, but I'm not on the opiates that nearly killed me. So, and I've never had a relapse. Anyway, guys, I'll show you some of the most prized possessions that I have. And some of them are from dear best friends that are still here, and some of them are from dear best friends that are no longer here. Like the action figure I showed you in the beginning. That's my best friend, Chris Addison, that passed away in 2018. And that's back when I was using, and oh boy, did I ever have a rough time. I was a mess. I was a mess right before he passed away. Like, I remember a few days before he passed away talking to him on the phone. And we were both just, because he had ADHD like me, so when we took opiates, we were and felt at our best, right? So we would call each other up and just yap each other's ears off. But yeah, after losing him, I found out that he passed away before his poor mother found out. Like, I found out because I got a friend named Charbel that's been my friend since I was a kid. I mean, like a lifelong friend. I was half asleep on the couch one day, probably high, you know what I mean? And because it was the middle of the afternoon or whatever. And Charbel messaged me, and I was taking a nap. I said, oh, I'll message him back later. And then he started trying to call me, like FaceTime calling. That's when I knew that there was something serious. So I picked it up, and he said I was half asleep. And what it was is he had friends that lived in my friend Chris's building, like 2 doors down from him. Chris lived in that apartment building for years and years. His living room looked like a game room. He had a foosball table where the kitchen table. He was just like me with the collectibles. His whole apartment was a man cave. But what happened was Chris did not show up for work that day, which was highly unusual. And so his ride that used to pick him up and drive him to work got a hold of his dad. And his dad got a hold of the superintendent, who let him in with a pass key, and his poor father had to find him passed away. Yeah, and when Charbel told me that, like, Charbel heard about it because the people in the building said there's an ambulance at Chris's house. It doesn't look good this time. And, or doesn't look good, however they put it, right? And we lost him. And that, I still haven't recovered from that. But I have a bunch of his items I will never in my life get rid of. And that Scarface is one of them. Me and Chris go back since high school. Like, we're tight. He was the type of friend that if we got busy in life and didn't talk on the phone for 6 months, we could pick up the phone, call each other, and it was like no time passed. He always had my back. One of the first people I would call if something good or bad happened, you know? He was one of my, I'd say I have 3 best friends, and he was one of them. So that was a very hard loss. And I was a mess when I lost him, or before I lost him, I was a mess. But after I lost him, oof. And that's when I almost lost myself, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, guys, we'll get into more of it when we get home. I just wanted to introduce the video, talk about what it's about, and say don't be sad for me because I'm in a good spot now. Well, as good as I can be. I'm sober and got a job, and yeah. So in this video, you're going to see a few different items. I think there might be a few die-cast cars in there as well, but some of these items have very, very deep meaning. And like I said, they actually, well, a couple of them helped shape me to be the way I am today, and the way I view people today, and the way I try to treat others today. You might be surprised with some of the stuff you hear, but like I said, it'll be nothing graphic or anything like that. Nothing, no gross images or anything. Just some of the things I have very, very, very deep meaning. And the first item, which was that Hellraiser doll figure, Chris would be pissed if I said doll figure. In fact, that was the last figurine he ever bought and he collected, so that's why that's got particular meaning to me. So yeah, we're gonna get into some other stuff that some of it's very valuable as well, but the value means nothing to me, and this proves that because some of it I got for free and I could sell it and be like, ooh, you know what I mean? But no. Anyway, just gonna stop and get stop at the burger factory and get a little order of jalapeno poppers to treat myself. I know it's not Miracle Man. That's the name of it. Miracle Man on Six Nations. They've got the best ones on the planet. Best ones on the planet. But they're 40 minutes away. So these are the next best ones. So that's what I'll have. But anyway, let's get back home and I'll start getting into some of this emotional stuff with you guys. Okay guys, we got some jug up. Glenn is at his Dodge Ram meet. Surprisingly, they meet in friggin', like, it'll be blizzarding out, and Glenn's like, oh no, we meet rain or shine, and they actually go out and meet. They just meet in the parking lot and talk about Dodge Rams. Or any Dodges, I think, really, but it's mostly Dodge Rams and what they do to them and stuff like that, because Glenn has a very nice Dodge Ram Warlock. So, but yeah, so he's not home, so it's the perfect time to do a video like this. Don't laugh at me if I get emotional during the video. I'm gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen, but I'm talking about a whole bunch of emotional stuff. And don't mind me as I literally drive down the parking sidewalk looking for a way to exit this parking lot. You guys didn't see that. I'm just kidding. I just didn't really drive down the parking lot there, or down the sidewalk there, guys. I'm just teasing. And yeah, I don't really not have my seatbelt on either, guys. It's I'm not really driving. It's just a background in the background, a green screen. Okay? And I'm just shifting my car to make it look realistic, but I'm not really driving. So just kidding. I'm driving. I'm gonna be safe. But let's get home and start getting into this stuff that means the world to me. Yeah, that's one last time. I will never get rid of him. I was lucky to get some of my best buddy's ashes, and I had a little thing made, so he sits beside my father and beside Crazy Joe in my IKEA cabinet with all my important boxing memorabilia, my grandfather's stuff. That's right, Crazy Joe. And don't worry, I'll get into who Crazy Joe was through the video. Whoa, 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 not this far. This is back in the 90s in Sault Ste. Marie. I've grown up a little bit since then. I don't have any guns and I don't agree with them, just to be clear. I tell you guys, I led a crazy life. I did, and there's people that'll vouch for it, but that's for a different video. Thank God that all happened before Google. You can Google the heck out of me, you won't find anything. Now, let's fast forward to 2019. I was just sober. I had my overdose. I just talked to Diane. My overdose was January 2019. It's funny, most people forget their sobriety date and stuff like that. I don't. I just have not used opiates again. I know how important it is to me. I always remember that day, and now that day will stick out in my head because I looked it up. Not the exact date, but I know it was January 2019. Diane got me my 6-month sobriety gift, which I'll show you guys what that is, and I'll never sell it. It's amazing. But fast forward to June of 2019. Justin. I was not even 6 months sober yet. And I was so used to just scumbags in my life. I'm not saying everybody in my life was scumbags. 90% of them. I was coming from the drug world, criminal world. Yeah, so you can picture the type of people around me. So I did not have trust for people, and I was used to people taking from me and using me, and generally if they said they were going to do something, not doing it. Okay? So here's how I met Justin. Check this out. I met him, he was a total stranger, by selling him something on Marketplace. He's a huge wrestling collector. His collection would blow you away. Now picture this, he's a complete stranger, okay? I get this at an antique store. And I'm going to show you guys the actual picture from the Facebook post. I took it home, and because I had just straightened up my life and stuff like that, me and Diane lived in just a tiny apartment, okay? No room for this. And this thing was big. I took it home, she made me list it for sale. But I thank God she did, because if she did not make me list it for sale, I wouldn't have met this guy. So check this out. June 8th, 2019. I'm just under 6 months sober, and my new addiction is thrift hunting. Going to thrift stores, and look what I find, a life-size Ultimate Warrior cardboard standee. I scored that thing for something like 25 bucks, guys. It was a no-brainer. The only problem was I didn't have room for it, and Diane was right, like she usually was. We had no room for that. So my next bright idea was I can sell that and make a few bucks. That'll sell in no time. I could chalk a few bucks onto the price and sell it. I put it on Marketplace and I got a message from a gentleman in Niagara Falls. And I told Diane, great, this is where I'm going to get a bunch of people from out of town asking me to ship it, this and that. I think I got cranky with poor Justin at first. Like I said something like, oh, dude, I'm not going to ship it or something like that because I had people asking me to ship it. He says, no, he goes, I'm a huge fan of this stuff. What won me over is he sent me a picture. He had the cardboard Hulk Hogan one. And it would have went beautiful. Like he had the title belt on it and everything. And I said, this has got to go to this guy. And that once we were chatting through Messenger, the whole idea of me tacking money on it went out the window. And Diane laughed. She said, you don't got it in you, babe. Like you're not that tight. So he comes, he drives all the way from Niagara Falls. He picks it up and we hit it off, okay? And it's hard to hit it off with me, especially back then, because I was a very private, closed guy, okay? Like I would say hello to you, I'd be friendly with you, but I wasn't chatty like I am now. Like you would never see me doing a YouTube video. I was just loose lips, sink ships, keep to myself, that type of stuff, right? So I bring him into my little tiny apartment. Like it's tiny, tiny, guys, okay? And the only thing I have to my name at the time, I don't have my car. I don't even have my job I have now. I have my one Detolf cabinet with my LJN figures. Well, I'll show you. That is so cool, guys. You know what? I'll put them on the wall so you guys could see them good. There you go. But that's all I had. It was an impressive collection. Like I had, well, I'll show you up close. I had the Holy Grail. Check this out. That's right, guys. Ask any wrestling collector, LJN collector, who the Holy Grail is. Him right there is Sergeant Slaughter. He was actually a Hasbro, not an LJN, as you see in this poster with him standing over LJN Hulk Hogan. That's what makes him so valuable and rare. He was a mail-away figure, guys. Back in the 80s, me and my friends didn't mail away for anything. It took way too long. This was way before the internet. So not too many of them around. I've seen some mint Sergeant Slaughters that came in the poly bags. Every single Sergeant Slaughter that's legit has little green marks on it, like it was a reaction with the plastic bag. If you ever go to buy one of those figures that doesn't have the marks, question it. Anyway, we hit it off, and because I liked Justin so much, he was so personable, I started letting my walls down a bit, chatting with him. I said, hey, I have something I think you'd like. I had the wrestler, The Missing Link, WWF. He was a bad guy in the 80s, well-known bad guy, real good heel. My friend Brian in Hamilton, his sister was married to him, his partner or whatever, for a lot of years. And I couldn't believe it. Brian said, we know it'll go to a good home. We'd like to give you some of his personal stuff. So I gave Justin, because I know Justin, well, at the time I had a feeling he would never sell it. I gave him one of the Missing Link's cufflinks, and I kept the other cufflink. And he was so flattered he was trying to offer me money. He could not believe that this was personally owned by him, and I was giving it to him. And I said, it was just that he seemed genuinely interested in my collection. I seen it in his eye. He had a twinkle in his eye. He wasn't taking it to sell it. He was genuinely interested. He couldn't get enough of what I was telling him. Like he would have stayed for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like I sensed he was a true collector. He loved this stuff. I felt good about doing it. So I didn't expect anything back. I never do when I do things for people. So he leaves, but as he's leaving, he says to me, I notice you have some boxing memorabilia, a couple things. Do you like Manny Pacquiao? And I said, do I like Manny Pacquiao? I said, are you kidding me? I said, he's my favorite active boxer right now is Manny Pacquiao. I said, it's crazy you would ask me that or know that. I said, why do you ask? And he goes, Okay, well, if that's the case, I have something for you. It's by Manny Pacquiao, and I'm going to send it to you. What's your address? So I texted him my address. He goes, okay, you're going to get it tomorrow. And keep in mind, I don't know him, okay? And I've dealt with nothing but scumbags my entire life. Well, 90% scumbags. 10% of the people in my life were good, and some of them are still in my life to this day, okay? So I said, okay. And he said, yeah, I'm going to overnight it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's a surprise. I said, okay, cool, man. I'm thinking in my head, this guy's full of shit. And I told Justin this years later. I said, I thought you weren't for real. I thought you were conning me. You're full of shit. Because the world I come from, people are not generous like that. So he leaves, and I look at Diane. I say, what do you think of that? And she goes, think of what? I say, he says he's going to send me something overnight. And she goes, well, he seems sincere. He doesn't look like he's all whacked out on drugs like everybody else he used to hang out with. Like, he seems like a decent guy. You know, let's see what happens. I said, yeah, you're right. I said, I'm just not holding my breath. You know what I mean? Like, why would this stranger send me this? So then the next day, the mail day comes. And it was a special delivery, whatever. And I'll show you up close what he sent me. Okay, you'll have to forgive me, guys, but the next day I opened up a parcel, and in the parcel were these in a protective bag. I went right out and got a shadow box. This is something at the time, guys, I was not making a lot of money. I was making minimum wage. I had just gotten clean. Like, I was clean maybe 5 months when this guy came into my life by fluke. Okay. And there's no question it's real. These are the things I'm showing you today that if you ever see me post it for sale, there's a problem. Something's going on. You'll never see me post that for sale. That's not just a set of trunks. That made me change my thinking. That there's good people out there. And not everybody just wants to use you. And ever since then, I try to make sure that he never, ever overpays for anything again. Stuff that's in the stores, he's got it. He doesn't overpay. He gets the best. Him and Dave, basically what I get, those two get the best of what I get split up. And Dave, there's reasons for him that I'll get into as well. But Justin didn't know that about the trunks. I just told him about that in the last couple months. And I lightly scratched on it because we were in a phone call. He's a very busy guy and he has a family and he has to work away a lot. Yeah, but he's the type of guy that we can go 6 months being busy and hook up and chat. And it's like no times went by. But those trunks gave me a different outlook. And by the way, that Sergeant Slaughter, $10. $10. And in that condition, at that time that it was found, it was worth about $8.50 on like going by eBay sold listings and stuff. And that's, you know, the way I price things, eBay, I picked the lower one to price it. It's a grail. They're very rare. Now there's people knocking them off, making replicas and stuff. That was the real deal. But anyway, on to the next thing that I thought I would never own, and it's something that I will never sell. And it's something that I'm not going to remove from the wall, but I'm going to take you down to see it. But first, I'll show you the day I got it and everything. June of 19, I'm just under 6 months sober, and it's right around the time I met Justin. I'm doing the same deal. I'm on foot on Ottawa Street here in Hamilton checking antique stores. I come across this. Autographed Muhammad Ali. It's a signed silk cachet by the Gateway Stamp Company. Comes with a COA. It looks legit. It's framed, professionally framed. And it was a smoking deal. So picture this, guys. I'm on the rise, coming back up. I'm sober. I got a career job, but I'm only a few months into it. And I find that in an antique store. and it's on my, like, I had a list of, like, a bucket list of items. And honestly, I almost filled my bucket list when I sold everything off, and that's what made me happy and not be upset. But I had a bucket list of items, and one of the things on that bucket list was Muhammad Ali's autograph. Okay, I walk into an antique store on Ottawa Street here in Hamilton one day after work. Before I show you it in person, because I'm not going to rip it off the wall, I mentioned it was at an antique store, and it was a shop that handles estates. Now, you would think that an antique shop would know the value of this. It's a shop that handles estates, which means somebody passes away, they buy the person's entire collection, whatever, right? So I look at it and I jump on my phone right away. I'm looking around. Okay, Gateway, it's from a company, Gateway Stamp Company. I looked this company up. It's a totally legit company, and this is a totally legit run. It turns out in 1990, Ali signed. He did 2 runs of them, 2 different days, and mine was from the first run, and it's numbered. It says the number right on it. And anyway, it's legit. He signed it in 1990 to mark the 30th anniversary of him winning the Olympic gold in Rome. So it's legit. It's in my hand. Ali signed this, okay? It's the most faked signature around. It's the most sought after signature, but if you do your research, it's the most forged, okay? So I asked the guy, oh, how much is this? And he says, oh, I'll let you have it for $175. So I'm looking at this thing. In 1990 on their website, it's still on their website. Of course, you can't buy it. It's long gone. It's retired. But on their website in 1990, you could purchase the envelope alone, and it came with a COA, and it was $3.99 US, okay, in 1990. So somebody along the line took it and did it right. They had it professionally framed, had a nameplate added, and had the picture of Ali added, because that did not come with it. The picture, nameplate, frame, none of it. The framing is worth more than $175. So I called Diane. I say, you're not going to believe this. I told her what I found. I said, this is something I will never, ever see again for this price. This is my chance to buy it. And she says, you know what, babe? We have a vacation coming up because we were going to British Columbia to see her family in a few weeks. She said, it's better that you hold off. And I kind of went, but she was right. I said, okay, babe, no problem. The next day, she's off work. She says to me, let's go out and bum around. Let's go for a walk down Ottawa Street. So I took her for my walk, and I started taking her in stores. And she said, take me to that store and show me that Ali autograph. And I said, honestly, babe, it's probably gone for that price. I said, but I'll take it and show you it. You never know, right? Because he didn't have it priced. He didn't have it advertised, nothing. If he had it advertised, it'd have been sold in minutes. So we go back and we walk in, and I'm looking around the store, and it's not in the same spot it was. And I said, see, babe, it's sold. And she says, well, what's this over here? And it was leaning up against a pillar in a different spot. It wasn't hanging, displayed, anything. It was leaning against a pillar. So I went up and grabbed a hold of it, and it still was not sold. But now it had a price on it, $175. Diane says, let me see that. And I say, okay. So I hand it to her. She takes it up to the cash, and she says, this is $175. The guy says, yes, it is. And she goes, would you do $175 no tax if I pay cash? And the guy said, yep, I would do that. And my jaw dropped because I was not expecting it. And I was impressed because she'd hit with the no tax. I was like, oh my God, you're getting that for $175 and then you do no tax. You know what I mean? That's ruthless. But I couldn't believe it. And we walked out. I said, what the hell did you do that for? And she goes, you've been sober for 6 months. That's your sobriety gift. And that's how I figured out my overdose time, by the way, was because I messaged Diane and asked her, and she said, I don't remember either, but if you look up the Muhammad Ali pictures or the autograph, I got you that for your 6 month sobriety. So that's what I did. There it is, guys. Hope the lighting's good. But my guess is that was in a collector's collection and he passed away, because this was signed in 1990 and it ended up at that antique shop. And like I said, if you bought it in 1990 for $3.99 US, you got the envelope and you got the COA. So whoever it was that owned it did it right. Just a close-up, you could even see the postage mark and everything, and it explains it all. I always say that a COA is very important, but the problem is anybody can write a COA. That COA came from Gateway Stamp Company. I know it's legit because I know Gateway Stamp Company is legit. And I've also seen other examples of that envelope that were certified by PSA DNA and Beckett and all the other stuff. So I know that is legit. But I have another cool way I found it was legit. I'll show you guys. So there's a really cool website I'm a member of, and it's free to join. Free to join. And it's people that eat, breathe, and crap autographs, guys. Like, I mean, these guys are experts. And the cool part about it is you can post a picture of an autograph and they'll tell you if they think it's real or not, and they're not gentle about it. But a guy in the Ali autograph field, because it is a specific field for Ali, because there is so many fakes, guy named Sean Anderson, he eats, breathes, and craps Ali autographs. He has samples of Ali's signature from all through the decades, like every year, because he got Parkinson's, so his signature changed, right, when he got old and stuff. So I was told he's the man over PSA DNA, over everybody when it comes to Ali. So I reached out to him. Sorry about the format of some of these pictures, guys, but I zoomed it in so you could see the correspondence. I actually emailed him, and yeah, it's legit. Now, normally you find an Ali autograph for $175, red flags out the wazoo. Don't just impulse buy it. Like, I spent time on my phone looking up Gateway Stamp Company and everything else to make sure I wasn't one of the ones that was had. So that brings us to Crazy Joe. Now there's a lot of colorful stories about him. He lived up to his nickname, I'll tell you that. He feared no man. He was about an inch or two shorter than me, and I'm about 6'3", but he was big. And like I said, he feared nobody. Tattoos all over him. He shaved his head. Him and Chris both got them, but if they turned the inside of their lip inside out, it said "fuck you" tattooed on the, sorry about the language, but it said "F you" on the inside of their lip. And he was very dear to me, very close to me. He was like a brother. We lost him from cancer. The problem with him is he was too tough. He started getting sick, started vomiting. He told me he thought it was acid reflux, and he lost a crap ton of weight. He went from about 240 down to, smaller than I am now. And his wife ended up dragging him to the doctor finally, and it was cancer. And by that time, it was too late. And that little heart locket right next to my grandfather's war medal and my mother's Bible and my father's ashes is my buddy Joe Bryce. Joe might have been crazy and he might have hated society, but he loved us and we all loved him. And if he had your back, he had your back. And let me tell you, if I had a problem with somebody, if I pointed, it was clunk, 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 because Joe was right there, if you know what I'm saying. He was so tough, I figured he would have scared cancer away. If he ever got mad at me, I would turn into Ben Johnson. Rest in peace, Joe. I could tell you guys so many stories, but a lot of these guys that I went around with, sorry about that, guys, have children that are adults now. And while they might be cool stories to hear, I don't want their children hearing them, because it's Like Joe, I'm being very, 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 what do you call it? PG guidance or whatever with that guy. I'm being very, 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 yeah, because I wouldn't want, he's got beautiful daughters and I wouldn't want them just, like, he's never killed anybody or anything like that, but he gave zero Fs. I'll tell you that much. My buddy Darcy, who passed away a few years ago, another person that's near and dear to my heart, he was my other best friend. And ironically, he was Chris's best friend. And the three of us were like best friends for years and years and years. And when I lost him, Diane came to my work and told me, and I was at work and I was shocked. And I remember I didn't leave work. I sat there the rest of the night. I was kind of in shock. And I was supposed to finish work at 9 p.m., I think, and I was there till 1 in the morning or something because I could not get my work done. And I'm too stupid to say, oh, your best friend died. Go tell them and go home. You know, I'm too tough for that, I guess. Darcy was a very best friend, but he was also a lot like me, and he had issues with substance abuse over the years. When Darcy passed away, he was locked up in the penitentiary. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. He had a heart of gold. He was just having problems in his life. He reached out to me. We went to see him. It's funny because we signed him out of the penitentiary on a day pass, and then I take him to Kingston Penitentiary to go on a tour of this closed penitentiary, like it's now defunct. But we had a blast with him, took him out for dinner, took him a big care package. It was great. And I had plans for him. He was down because he had put on quite a bit of weight because he was clean, but he hated the weight that he had put on. But I had plans for him. I told him if he kept on the straight path, I was going to get him a job where I worked, but he had to prove it to me that he was going to be straight and narrow. The one good thing about Darcy, well, he had tons of good things about him, but one thing I loved about him was when he was going down the wrong path in life, he would stay in touch with me, but he wouldn't bring it around me because he knew that I was clean. He had that respect and that love for me. So yeah, we went and seen him. I talked to him about future plans. And then about, in the next month, he texted me, said he wasn't feeling well. He'd been in and out of the infirmary in the prison, and that they told him that he had sleep apnea, that he needed a machine. I have a machine. I have sleep apnea, and I don't use it, and I'm an idiot. I got to start using it again. But he told me he was scared because they wouldn't issue him a sleep apnea machine, and he was scared he was going to die. And I said, wow, like that's pretty bad. And I contacted his family, and I'm not going to get any more into that. But he passed away anyway. And it was very shortly after I got those text messages. His family is aware of the text messages. No matter how he went though, he's gone. And we miss him and we love him. To make matters worse, he had to get the news of Chris passing away when he was locked up. Sorry guys, I know it was supposed to be about collectibles. It was supposed to be about Justin's shorts and Chris's pinhead, but I'm just giving a little mention. I don't feel right mentioning Chris and not mentioning Darcy and vice versa. And Darcy's son Tyler, who might watch this, I remember when he was born. Yeah, I remember when he was born. I don't want to tell you where I was at and where his father was at when he was born. But I've been in his life since he was a baby. Thankfully now I've turned everything around, and I could be of some help to him if he ever needs advice or ever has trouble or anything like that. And he does message me from time to time. When he was born though, you wouldn't want to know me. I gotta say one more thing about Justin before I forget it. I know I'm a little bit off topic. He's such a nice guy that you would have to be, like if somebody came up to me and said, oh, I don't like your buddy Justin, I would automatically, I think this guy's an asshole because he's that nice of a guy, okay? Ironically, when I first met him and stuff, and a couple months after meeting him, I said, you play hockey? And he looked at me and he said, How do you know that? And I said, you just have that look that you play hockey. The reason I know is because when I was in high school, believe it or not, my high school was a bad school, but you wouldn't think it was a bad school because we had to wear uniforms. But it was in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, and Sault Ste. Marie compared to Hamilton is the jungle, okay? And it had a lot of bad kids in there. And there was a lot of jocks in there that played sports. And most of the jocks I didn't get along with because did drugs and partied and stuff like that. And yeah, it's ironic that me and him have clicked the way we did because back in high school, who knows, you know what I mean? But then again, if he was the same as he is now in high school, I'd have liked him then. So, but it's just ironic because in high school, me and jocks were, it's almost like the outsiders with the greasers and the, what is it, the socias. I would have been one of the greasers. So I'm trying to go in chronological order here, guys. So now we're going to go to Dave and Giuliano and how they came and why I look at them so importantly. So after losing Darcy, losing Chris, I said I really have to rid myself of the people around me that are into bad drugs and into crime. I can't do it no more. Like I was clean at that time. I needed clean friends, okay? And I had started collecting wrestling figures and I was hitting the stores for wrestling figures. And I was looking on Marketplace and I noticed that I was noticing a lot of high value Hot Wheels. I was seeing this stuff every day in the stores because I was there anyway for other toys, right? So I'm like, wow, I'm here all the time. Maybe I could fucking start collecting this stuff and meet some people. You know, get into a hobby and meet some normal people. I know you might laugh at me, but my addictions counselor when I got sober told me that I needed to find something to do, that idle time is not good for me. And she's right. And I needed a hobby and I should find different people because, yeah, I can't stay sober hanging around a bunch of drugs. I remember I started lightly collecting green light Hollywood. And one day I was in Walmart here on Centennial, and a man was looking at Hot Wheels, and he says to me, "Oh, hey, I noticed you're looking at those. Do you ever collect Hot Wheels?" And I wish I knew who this older gentleman was because I would love to talk to him. Because I didn't collect any of this stuff at the time, right? Barely any of it. And he was older than me, he had glasses, and I said to him, I said, "Nah," I said, "I only collect movie cars, dude." I said, "I'm into green light." And he goes, "Well, Hot Wheels has tons of movie cars." And he came over, pulled out his phone. He showed me he had BJ and the Bear, and he had a bunch of good ones, right? And I said, "Wow, I didn't know they sold those." And then he showed me cinema cards he had. And I said, "Wow, okay." And he goes, "Have you heard of Steel City Hot Wheels?" And I said, "I've never heard of that." And he said, "It's a Facebook group. You should join it. It's not just Hot Wheels. It's all diecast." So I joined that, and that was a pretty cool group, and it's local. And then they put me on to one called Ontario Diecast Addicts, which is for all of Ontario, but it's based out of Hamilton. And I know the people that run the group, and they're awesome people with very good ethics, and I like most of the group members, although the only problem I have with that group is it's such a good group, and they put on such good diecast shows. It's getting too big. Like before it felt like kind of like we were a family. Now it's getting too big and they can't tell if who they're letting in is a troll or not. So there's the odd troll getting in that'll piss negative stuff on a post and then they'll just remove the person. But there's nothing they can do about that. Like that comes with popularity, right? Like they got a good brand name going and people are flocking to it and some of them are the wrong people. So I don't hold them accountable at all. But anyway, so I joined ODA, and when I would find valuable stuff, I was taking pictures of it and I would post it in ODA because it's based out of Hamilton. And a lot of guys were appreciative, but I had a couple people that were leaving negative comments. "Oh, thanks. That's why I can't find anything." And I didn't know what they were getting at. I was like, "What are you talking about? You can't find anything. I'm telling you it's here, right? Go get it." Well, anyway, it turns out that I was and I didn't realize it at the time, and they were right, but I was telling scalpers where to go get everything, and that's what was happening. And scalpers were going and cleaning the place up. The only problem was that day, instead of just telling me nicely, look, dude, don't post the pictures like that, scalpers are getting it, a bunch of people jumped all over me. And it was when I was new to the hobby. Nobody knew me from Adam, okay? And Dave Herod and Giuliano both stuck up for me. Sight unseen. I didn't even know what these guys look like, okay? Dave jumped in and said, I can't remember what he said, but he said, lay off. Like, he doesn't know, he's trying to help. You know what I mean? Tell him in a friggin' human way, right? And Giuliano jumped in with the same aggression and said, lay off. You know what I mean? And then both of them inboxed me because I was ready to leave the group. I said, you guys are a bunch of dickheads. And both of them inboxed me and said, no, it's not everybody. It's just a couple guys, you know, stick around. And they talked to me, and I said, you know what, since you guys, and this was a few years ago, I said, since you guys had my back, I'm going to have your back. And they probably thought that I was blowing smoke or whatever, right? And Dave will remember this, but this was when I was hunting a lot more. I was the heavyweight champ around here. Like, I was pissing people off because, like, they were going to stores that'd be empty, and it's because Neil already hit it. Like, I used to cut out people, I would see people commenting and saying, oh, I haven't found anything, Neil's been there first, and I would cut out the comment. Because I wasn't scalping stuff, like strangers could ask me for stuff, and I would put them on a list and help them out with it. It was all being sold for retail cost. And every once in a while, somebody in ODA, I would post a picture of all these hard-to-get cars, and I'd get a, well, that's why I can't find anything. And I'd be like, well, you realize if you ask me, I'll sell you one, right? And yeah, so that's how I came into diecast, was I dove in head first, helping people. I had the admin, Christine, her heart was in the right place, but she messaged me. She thought I needed my head examined, I think, at first, because she said, Neil, you seem like a cool dude. All these guys are going to take advantage of you. She goes, you're offering these guys all this stuff at retail cost. You're helping all of them. Half of them wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. I said, Christine, it doesn't matter. I've done nasty things to people in my life. This is kind of my way of paying back because I believe in karma. So for a couple years, I was hunting my ass off. And there was little green Porsches, for example, Forza Motorsports, the green Forza Porsche. I must have had, I can't remember, it was over 30 of them. I kept getting them from Toys R Us, and those are selling for 30, 40 bucks each now. I don't know how many of those I gave away for retail cost. I thought that I had friggin' contracts on my head by local scalpers for a while. Like, I was starting to get serious heat, and it was all because I was hurting people's bottom lines. But Dave and Giuliano, I was raining them diecast. Like, I was on a hot streak, and I remember I would pull up to Dave's house when he lived in a house, and he'd say, what are you going to do? You're going to go check Barton now? And I'd say, yeah, I'm going to go get all the boulevards. And there was about a period of about 3 weeks, he would remember this, where I would leave his house joking about it, walk into Barton Walmart, and they would refresh the stock of the boulevards. Very hard to get. I would clean them all out, sell them all to my buddies for retail cost, or anybody for retail cost. Go back the same time the next night, they'd be stocked up again. For about 3 weeks, it was like they had endless boulevards. It was crazy. But I was rolling up to Dave's house, just dumping this stuff on him. And I said, dude, I told you I wasn't blowing smoke. Like, I don't forget. Because you got to remember, Dave and Giuliano didn't know me. And they were in the pit of the wolves. You know what I mean? Like, everybody could have turned on them. And they stuck up for me, and they didn't know me. And I respected the shit out of that after that. And I started raining them stuff, just all for retail cost. We became very good friends. And by the way, Giuliano, Justin, and Dave are guys that if they called me in the middle of the night, said somebody's hurting my family, somebody's after me, somebody's bothering me, I would be over at their door with a fucking chainsaw. Like I would be there immediately to help them and it would not be good. And those guys know it. Giuliano, I might not have told you that yet, but that's know it. Yeah, that's how I feel about those guys. So yeah, so that's about how I met Dave and Giuliano. Now I have a lot of gifts from Dave over the time I've met him. He's the type that if I give him gifts, he wants to return it. He doesn't want to take anything from anybody. Dave, of my friends, is fiercely independent. He doesn't need me for anything. Like if I dropped off the planet, he would still make out fine with getting his die-cast cars and stuff like that. He's crafty. He's like a shorter version of me in that sense. Like he's very, very like he's savvy when it comes to this stuff. And I will, another thing I give Dave H credit for, that you remember the Canada Hot Wheels thing? A lot of people give me credit for starting that thing with calling him and getting the money back. I didn't start that, Dave did. Dave called for himself, and people were laughing at him in ODA saying, oh, that guy's not going to repay you, blah, blah, blah. You're just a guy on the phone. You're acting tough. He called him on the phone, heavied him, and got his money back right there and then. And that's when I started saying, this guy will, okay, because I thought calling him wouldn't be good, because if I'm the guy in Quebec and there's a guy in Ontario threatening me, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, come get some, bitch, click, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so I called him up, and that's, you know what happened with that. But Dave kicked open the door, the floodgates for that whole incident, okay? Giuliano is a few years older than me. He is awesome for giving me advice because, yeah, there's been incidents that he has given me very valuable advice. The incident with Grimace that was going on, he was front line. Like, I remember him sending me a voicemail, and he was actually, it's the first time and only time I've heard anger, and he told me to grow up. And you know what I said to him? Because I respected him? You're right. Whereas other people who aren't friends would have been like, oh yeah, I hate, because a lot of people didn't like Grimace anyway, right? So a lot of people would have been encouraging me to pound out Grimace so they could see him get pounded out, video recorded, all that other stuff. Giuliano didn't want to see me get in trouble, and he was the one saying, this guy's baiting you. Dave was another one that was saying, you got to stop, you know what I mean? This guy's baiting you. As soon as you make contact with him, he's going to call the cops. And it was Dave and Giuliano actually were instrumental. If Grimace ever sees this, you see Dave and Giuliano, you should buy them a beer, because it was those two guys that really, well, those two and Diane that got me to back off of him. I got a gift from Giuliano that I'm never going to get rid of upstairs. I'm just going to show you a couple things down here first. You guys have seen this. It's not done yet. It's my project in progress. The only thing that's not done about it yet is I'm taking out that Bandit car, and I'm going to take the PT Cruiser that I got as a donor car, smash her up, put it in there. But this was a gift from my crew, from Dave, from all those guys, Glenn, even Nadine threw in on that. The flag on it comes from friends that I met that were complete strangers that are viewers. Max and Krista sent me that. I will never get rid of that flag. I will never get rid of this truck. And I'm going to be showing the truck off when we crunch up the PT Cruiser and put it underneath there. That's just one thing that came from Dave. That was like a group gift that came from Dave. I'm going to show you something I got from Glenn even. We all did like a Kris Kringle where we went in on gifts for each other, like the group of us, and then friggin' Glenn went and got me and Dave something each, and I'm going to show you what it is. But first, I'm going to show you some Dave gifts that I'll never, ever, ever give away. And Dave will tell you, he'll say he doesn't care if I sell this stuff. All these guys always say that, but some of it's sentimental to me. So I'm going to show you one of the favorite things, and it's not even an expensive thing. Just something that he dragged back from the States, and he thought about me, and he knew that I wanted one. See that Cheetos I rock with the Chester Cheetah? I wanted one of those badly, and Dave surprised me with one, mint, and it's free from House of Cars. No, it's not the value of it, guys. It's the thought of it. Like, he dragged that back for me, you know what I mean? And I wanted it badly. Something else. He gave me that as a gift, guys. He probably paid $80 for all the car, everything. A gift. Now, Dave and Justin and Giuliano are guys that every time I'm getting them this stuff for retail or give them gifts, they always want to pay me back, or they think that they're obligated to pay back. And I always tell them, I don't do this for you guys to pay me back. I do it because I have, like, basically a debt to pay for being a dickhead for a lot of years to people. But sometimes they force me to take gifts and stuff like that. And one day, Giuliano blew me away. And I'll show you. Dave blew me away a bunch of times with gifts, but I'll show you what Giuliano blew me away with that'll never leave. And this is one for you 118 movie car guys. You're going to like this one. Isn't that beautiful, guys? It's one of my first movie cars, believe it or not. My first one of 18 scale movie cars. Ertl Vanishing Point. I love this thing. It's funny because a couple times I would be looking at Vanishing Point cars and Giuliano would think I was replacing this because it was a more detailed one. Giuliano, if you're watching this, I don't give a crap about details. That thing, it could have looked like you dropped it on the floor and took a hammer to it. You gave it to me. That thing sits in my cabinet with all my favorite cars, just so you know. That doesn't sit on a shelf exposed somewhere. That is in my cabinet. I love it. It's never going anywhere. Just so you know, I love that thing. And it's been in a video as well. Even though I couldn't unbox it, I still did a video way back on it. But yeah, I went to his house. He said, I have something for you. And I opened it up. And it was this. Mint. Like, guys, I cannot tell you how mint it is. But G is an old school collector, and he has a collection that is mind-blowing, and it's all... His display is mind-blowing, I'll just say that. And one day we're going to get together and I'm going to show you guys, because he already said that we can do that. We just have to get our schedule together. But he is an old school Hot Wheels collector that collected lines from the beginning, like getting them in stores. Like the cinema cards that I loved so much, he was getting them in the stores on the pegs. So you can imagine the stuff he has. Oh, one more thing from Giuliano that I got as a gift that I've actually had people try to buy from me, but it will never be for sale. And it actually is only 1 of 25 scale, but it looks great amongst my other movie cars. So it sits in my birthday cabinet. Some of you will know what it is, but I'll show you. Don't mind the empty spot, guys. Usually Vanishing Point sits there, but he's upstairs on the look-see set. But see the Homer here? He looks pretty awesome, right? That is a model kit by Polar Lights, 1 of 25 scale. I believe Giuliano gave that to me. Who's messaging me? Will was messaging me. Will. I believe Giuliano gave that to me when I was off work because of my ankle. I remember he came to visit me at my apartment and he said, I have something for you, and it was that. And I was thrilled. If you guys noticed the big sell-off I did, these are things that I did not sell, would not sell, had people in the room trying to buy it, won't sell it. I've even got stuff from some of you guys I'll never sell. Like the flag I just showed you, I also got this. These grease cars. I wanted them terrible. Speaking of which, I cannot wait. I know they're going to do a 1 of 18 scale of this if they got the license for it. And I can't wait. But I wanted these terrible when I heard they were coming out. Because they had never done, nobody ever did Hell's Chariot yet. Believe it or not. What makes those so special, because I was mentioning them in videos, and an awesome viewer named Bobby messaged me and said he had a gift for me and wanted my address, and he sent me those. And I'm going to be, by the way, our mutual friend Will, who's probably watching this, has those cars from me that he's supposed to be sending to Bobby. If Will does not get those out to you soon, Bobby, I'm going to make sure that they get sent out to you. Will, speaking of Will, you notice that spot's empty? You know why it's empty? No, something a little bit different, guys. Something really different for most of you guys from what you're used to. This segment's about my dear friend John, who's no longer with us, and his wife, Amber, and my awesome buddy, Rodney. Luckily, Amber and Rodney are still with us. So you guys know my story about how I got sober and stuff like that. Well, to get this job I'm at now, my one shift starts at 4 a.m., okay? The buses don't run at that time, so I needed a car. When I went to the job interview, I told them I had a reliable way in, but poor Diane was driving me in the middle of the night for a couple months and then having to get up and go to work herself for 9 a.m. So it sucked. I needed to do something. I had just got sober and my friends Amber, John, and Rodney said, "You need a license, dude. Get your license." And I said, "Yeah, but I've had my beginners a couple times. I let it expire because I'm too nervous to do my driven test. I've got too many bad habits because I was driving without a license, driving dirty for so many years. I just didn't know how to drive legal. I didn't know, you know what I mean? Too many bad habits." And they said, "Well, tell you what." And Amber lives in Hamilton. I'm very fortunate. She's a high school friend who's done very well for herself. She's very smart. And she's done very well in life because she's a smart person and she has good karma and she's a good person. And so is Rodney. So they said to me, "We'll pay for driving school if you go as a gift for being sober. But you have to promise you're going to go and you're going to complete it." That was an effing no-brainer. So with their encouragement at a shaky time, I actually went to driving school and actually got my legit license and then went and got my G. You guys remember the story about that. It took me a couple seconds to get my full license, but I got it. I was warned by the driving school not to do my test in Hamilton because they have a huge failure rate. I was told to go to Brantford or Simcoe, but stupid me. But these people were instrumental in how I am today, because if it wasn't for them, I might not have my license or what I drive. And that goes to John. So John was Amber's husband. We lost him. And they're my clean friends, guys, clean and sober. They do not do drugs of any kind at all, okay? We lost John scuba diving, actually, a few years ago. And part of the reason a lot of people don't realize why I got so attached to my car and why I haven't just got rid of my car is that car, not only did it used to belong to Rodney, who's in this trio, but it used to belong to John. In fact, the car, it's the previous owner legally was John. So that's why it's going to be a very hard day when I get rid of that car. Like, a lot of people think, why does he keep that car? Why is it selling? They don't know that a dear friend that had a lot to do with me getting sober. Like, I've called John on my own without Amber, and wow, it sounds like we're getting a tornado. I've called John on my own. Like, Amber is my friend from high school, but John was her husband. I didn't know him as well, but I tell you, that guy's been there for me. And then I lost him, about 5 years after meeting him or whatever, and he was an angel in my life. And anyway, I'm going to show you something that came from him that I'm never going to get rid of. It used to belong to him. Now, this thing has some value. Amber got a hold of me one day, and she said, "I have this comic book." She said, "What's the value of it?" And she sends me a picture of it, and I'll show you guys what it is. What she sent me a picture of was something that was on do you remember that bucket list of collectibles I told you about? It's something that I thought I would never own. What this is, it's an oversized comic book. If I remember correctly, it's from 1978. And they did one by DC Comics and Whitman Edition, see that W? This is the more rare Whitman Edition. They're both the exact same comic. It's Muhammad Ali versus Superman. Of course, I got it in a frame. Now, if you look at the audience, guys, it's celebrities from the time period. Like you have Sonny there in front of Batman from Sonny and Cher. You got Ronald Reagan. You got, like there's Lucille Ball. They're all, every celebrity, every audience member you see is a celebrity. And I looked up the values at the time because she wanted to know the value. Well, I'm not going to lie. The first thing I said to her was, holy shit, where did you get that? Because I thought maybe she found it at a yard sale or something. Because I knew exactly what it was. And she says, it used to belong to John. And I said, I cannot believe he had that and didn't mention it to me. But he probably didn't realize that I loved it and I wanted one bad. But anyway, I said to her, well, what are you going to do with it? Do you want me to list it to sell it? And this is what blew me away. He says, Neil, we know that you love this stuff. We know it's going to go to a good home. We trust you. We love you. We know you're not ever going to sell it. We want you to have it. I could not go get a frame quick enough, guys. If you're unsure what that is, look it up. Anyway, the Whitman edition of the Superman versus Muhammad Ali. Not a reprint, the actual one. If you remember, I sold everything else. I even sold my Time Life Charles Manson. Remember, I had the old Time Life magazine, mint condition, with Charles Manson, that iconic picture of him on the cover. I had it framed. I even sold that. I sold everything. But this is stuff that I will not sell and will never sell. That belonged to my buddy. And I don't even know the story. His father could have owned it. You know what I mean? But that'll never go ever anywhere. And one last gift I'm going to show you guys. And this came from Mr. Glenn. He's not here right now. But he did something at Christmas time that really opened my eyes that this stuff here is really just... Well, I tell people all the time it's only objects, and that's why I'm kind of generous with how I give it out and stuff like that. But this really showed me that Glenn said, yep, these are objects, and this does not define us. So Christmas time, we had a Kris Kringle. We all went in on gifts for each other. Like me and Glenn went in on the Bullet Mustang for Dave, for example, and none of us spent a bunch of money, you know what I mean? I felt bad because the Bigfoot that they got me was worth a little bit more than I expected, you know what I mean? But at the same time, a few of them went in on it, so I was like, whew. So anyway, after that night at Dave's house, we all opened our gifts, and I think we're all done. Glenn's opened up our gifts, all vice versa, right? Trying to keep out of that light, guys, so I don't annoy you. So I think the night's done. And then Glenn says, okay, Neil and Dave, I've got a gift for both of you guys. I looked at Dave, I said, Glenn, we just opened up all of our gifts. And he says, no, I got you each something separate. I went, okay, what's this? So it looked like a die-cast car in a box. I was not expecting what he was going to give me. And he gave Dave the exact same one, and I'm going to show you right now. Sorry, I've got the light unplugged, guys, but I do have another cell phone attachment, so I don't have to steal that one anymore, and I'm not going to have to steal the extension cord. But that is a 1 of 18 scale Chrome Chase General Lee, okay? I opened it up, I thought it was a joke. I said, Glenn, what are you doing? What are you talking about? I didn't know what to say. I was in shock because you got to remember, I had just opened up Bigfoot, right? So Glenn's telling me, it's okay, I want you to have it, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what to say. I'm baffled, right? And as I'm sitting there trying to get my bearings, I hear Neil, and I look over, and Dave has a box, and he just, like, it looks like he had just tore the wrapping off it, like he was opening his gift. And he had the exact same General League, both of them are in boxes, the exact same one. And Glenn says to me, "Oh, well, I wanted you to both have the same thing, and I didn't want one to have something that was more expensive than the other." You did not have to do that, Glenn, and you don't ever feel obligated to spend that much money on us, because that's not what friends are about. I love it. I'll never give it away, and I'll admit to you guys, it's probably something I never would own, because I had a chance to buy one for $50 10 years ago before I was collecting, and I laughed at the guy, and he's watching this video because he's a viewer, but it was before I collected. And I think my lucky thing for that ship had sailed. And I'm not going to pay $800 or $600 or whatever these things cost. No. So, but I do love it, and it looks awesome under the lights, and I'll never ever get rid of that. Now, I've got a lot more gifts than that, guys. But these are kind of more of my sentimental ones that I wanted to show you guys, and stuff that I will never get rid of, and stuff that had stories behind it. Now, I'm sorry if this was a long, boring video. It's just stuff that I wanted to get off my chest, stuff that I wanted the people to know that gave me the stuff. I still have it, I care about it, and my feelings on it. I know that this video is not going to get a shit ton of views because I'm not unboxing an expensive car, and I get that. This is more about my life, about addiction, and I want people to know that you're not hopeless. I used to think I was hopeless, and I wanted to get clean, but I couldn't find the resources. But it turned out that there was resources. They don't have a big budget of advertising. So yeah, there is hope. If I got clean, you can definitely got clean. And I got clean from opiates, fentanyl, powdered street fentanyl I was using. So yeah, it wasn't weed I was quitting. And yeah, just so you know about my overdose, if you didn't hear, back in 2018, would have been January. It was January 2019, because Chris died in 2018 and I got shot to shit. And when I say shot to shit, I've never used a needle in my life. The funny thing is, with my addiction, I thought I was smarter than everybody else. I thought because I'm just snorting little tiny bumps, all the guys that are overdosing, they're all using needles, right? I've never used a needle before. Gross. I'm above that. It's all the same thing. It still got me. And the stuff that got me was blue powder. Like, I used to use the purple stuff that's supposed to be the strong stuff, right? Stuff that got me was the blue powder that's the color of chlorine, like pool chlorine. And I'd been using it for about a month, that same colored stuff. And then the one day, the one chunk got me. And so what happened was, I don't even remember what happened. I remember I had the little pile on the countertop because I got a point, which is about a match head size, for $30. Okay, that's what it costs. I remember looking at it going, "Oh, you gave me a good count today." And yeah, so I chopped it up and it was in a little pile on the counter. And I remember going like this with my finger, like that. And then I woke up in an ambulance, and the ambulance guy is telling me to calm down, blah, 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 because I was, where the fuck am I? You know what I mean? And yeah, and if it wasn't for Diane, I probably wouldn't have got clean, because she was leaving at that point. She was leaving, and I loved her so much, and I wanted to get clean. So I used that as the catalyst. Like, as soon as I woke up in the hospital, give me resources to get clean, because it was a cycle. I'd be clean for about 3 days, and then I'd start getting sick again. It's not something you could do on your own with opiates, unfortunately. So but yeah, she, that day that I almost died, she was calling my phone and I wasn't answering. And she thought I was napping or whatever. And normally she would go get groceries, stop for gas, but she just had a feeling that day. So she headed straight home, and she tried to come into the apartment and couldn't get the apartment door open. and it's because I was on the ground dead, and my head was cracked open. I had blood and vomit coming out of my mouth, and I was dead. I was dead from fentanyl overdose. And they had to, they had to Narcan me twice. And the funny thing is, I remember the cops saying, wow, he's got a good spot for his dope, because we tossed the whole place because they were looking for drugs, right? Because I overdosed. You know where my drugs were at? On the kitchen counter, about 3 feet away from my body. Like they were literally reviving me, and there was stuff all around this little pile of fentanyl, credit card, a rolled up bill beside it, you know what I mean? They didn't notice it. And there was like, when I came home from the hospital, there's like latex gloves beside it, like all this medical stuff right beside it, and they didn't notice it, and they tossed the place and didn't find it. Luckily for me, I used my brains and flushed it down the toilet, because yeah. But anyway, that's what happened to me, and I wanted you guys to know that you're not lower than me, and I'm not lower than you, and there is help, and you can come back. If you're feeling addiction right now, you can definitely come back. And I'm sorry this is a long episode, but I wanted to break it up from all the unboxings and tell you a little bit about me. That way you know that I'm not better than you, that I'm a human, that I've made mistakes, and you can make mistakes too, and you can come back from the mistakes, and you could be sober. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this long, boring episode. I hope I didn't bore you to sleep. And sorry, guys, it cut me off just as I'm saying to my friends watching this, I love you guys. My viewers, I love you guys. I come to hang out with you guys like you guys are my friends. There's some nights I don't even unbox anything. I just want to come hang out with you guys. So thank you for being there for me, and sorry if I bored you with all this, just a little bit of my history and what makes me the way I am and what makes me tick the way I tick. And to my friends watching this, like I said, I love you guys. It cut me off before it let me say that. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you're struggling with addiction, there is help, there is hope. If I could do it, you could do it. Please reach out, get help. Fentanyl, it's not a matter, it's not if, it's when. If you're using that stuff, it's not if you're gonna die, it's when you're gonna die. So please get help. I'm not even gonna say subscribe and share and all that, because it's not about that, guys. Be safe. Love you guys, and we'll see you soon with an unboxing.